first topic at hand, which is Cam Newton. And Cam has his own YouTube channel, absolutely killing it. He's well over 1 million subscribers. He's doing his thing, but he had an opinion on the MVP. And there's a short clip that's floating around. Actually, his comments are after the Eagles game, but they made their way around social media today. And it was a much shorter clip. So I wanted to play most of it so that you guys get the gist and then you can come to your own conclusion. So let me bring this. Okay. Let me rewind it here. We'll play it from the beginning and then we'll discuss it, Sunil. I don't even know if you've seen it, but here goes.
Be a game where you literally put the whole team on your back, though. Christian McCaffrey does that so well, so often, that we can take his greatness for granted. But Brock, they're not winning because of him.
He's not turning the ball over.
He's managing the game. And if we were to put that in its own right as game managers, this may ruffle a lot of feathers, but it's honest. Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, and really, Dak Prescott. These are game managers. They're not difference makers. Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, they're impacting this game in only way that they know how. So in one side, you have game managers that is in these discussions of MVP.
And when you say game manager, I'm not asking you to go out and win the game. I'm just asking you not to lose.
Not to lose the game. Exactly. Like we've seen it. Like Dak's responsibilities for this year is not going out and throwing for 400 yards, 300 plus yards. Has he been doing it? Yes. But that's not needed for us to win. When you have a defense that's extremely stingy, when you got a guy on the opposite side of the ball of you that is owning the NFL record for pick sixes in a year.
Yeah.
Listen, motherfucker, I don't give a damn what you do. You don't have to score every time. You just don't have to throw a pick every time either.
Yeah.
That's a different type of discussion. So with that being said, I'm saying like, yo, if we're gonna really call a spade, there's a difference between managers of the game and difference makers of a game. That's not to say that they can't win the MVP.
Correct.
But it just is what it is. And if I were to say a game manager to win the MVP has to be Jared Goff, because he means a lot to the Detroit Lions.
And your game changer is?
My game is Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, let me remove this here before it bogs everything down. Okay. What are your initial thoughts of that, Sunil?
My initial thoughts are that outfit is
so phenomenal. I don't know the exact reference. I think it's a Disney reference, like a Disney Christmas movie reference or something.
If it was, the Nutcracker type.
Something like that.
It was something.
He talked about it later in the podcast because somebody said something. The other guy that's on the other end made a reference to his outfit, and he's like, it's a movie, reference. And I was like, I don't know what movie it is.
Yeah,
but,
I wasn't mad at it. I thought it was phenomenal. I couldn't pull it off, but
he's always been eccentric. We know that. Yeah, so
exactly. My initial thoughts are, I feel like this is getting played out because he contradicted himself a few times. So he was saying that there's these game managers and then there's impactful players that are at a different level that impact the game in a way that they can only impact. And he put in that category CMC, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in the sense that the three players that he listed that I just mentioned do impact the game different than, the quarterbacks that he mentioned. But for some reason, it seemed like he was putting down the quarterbacks like Dak, Tua, Purdy, and Jared Goff. But then he did state that you can win an MVP if you're a game manager. And to me, if you could win an MVP, you could win a Super Bowl. So if you're the caliber of quarterback that could go out there and win a Super Bowl, then what does it matter if they name you system quarterback, game manager, or elite game changer, I guess was the word that he was mentioning. To me, all that matters is, can you help your team win a Super Bowl? I think the thing that I disagree with him is that Brock Purdy doesn't do anything that's causing the 49ers to win a game. I think that Brock Purdy has done things that have helped elevate this team to win games. One of the reasons why I think it's taking away is just because he does have a team around him where he's not always put in situations where the level of his play gets the credit for it being a difference maker in the win because their defense is so good. But his ability to open up this offense, his ability to be the perfect grade of gasoline to help this machine run at its optimum level is what helps this team be as dominant as they are, right? When they're winning by over two scores per game. And when they're losing losing very close games. So to me, that is an element of Brock Purdy being there. Now, do I think that Brock Purdy without Christian McCaffrey is as successful as Christian McCaffrey and another quarterback in this offense? I'm was the guy last year that was saying the biggest change for this offense was CMC. And I don't think it's hard to argue that CMC makes this game a lot easier for whomever's playing quarterback. But I'd also think that Brock Purdy has done enough this year to separate himself from just a guy who's a product of the people around him and not get credit for the level of play that he's bringing to this team.
Yeah, I think so. The reason I wanted to play the whole clip is because the Brock Purdy part is what is floating around, and I think that that's what, reading in the chat, most people are talking about the Brock Purdy part of the conversation, which I knew was going to happen. Really, what I took from the conversation is that, first of all, when he talked about system quarterback, he went way harder on Dak Prescott than he did any of them. Right? Like he named Dak, and then he used Dak as the example and why he is a quote unquote system quarterback. And then, but his overall arching point was he thinks CMC is the MVP because CMC is a true difference maker in his opinion. Now, I also knew, and listen, don't take it personally, but these are the ones that I starred. There was many more than this. Cam wasn't a difference maker. Why are we listening to this washed up bum? Sounds like he's hating on Brock because he can't play anymore. I think one of the comments that Will Blackman said is, former DB, for those that don't know, Cam was an MVP in this league. He does deserve an opinion, whether you agree with it or not. I do find experiments like this interesting because when JT O'Sullivan says what we like, or who's the other one that's Chase Daniels, Orlovsky, Chase Daniels, when they say what we want, then it's right because they were pro quarterbacks, and so we got to take their word as gospel. But when Cam, who actually did a hell of a lot more in this league than any of those guys, says something, he's a clown, he's a hater, he's jealous, he didn't do anything in his career. But those other guys did. Like, what did they do with their career that Cam didn't? Like, we do have to remember that Cam, regardless of whether you agree with his opinion or not, to then attack his credibility as a player, I think is the wrong way to do it, because Cam Newton in a 16-game season put up 4,500 total yards, led a 15-1 team, and had 45 total touchdowns, throwing to Devin Funchess. Okay, so if anybody can talk on what it takes to be an MVP in this league and actually being the reason that your team is what it is, or the main reason, at least offensively, I think it's Cam Newton, regardless of what you want to say about his career after that or before that, or what he did in the Super Bowl or any of that stuff, how he dresses. You can't take away that he won an MVP and he was deserved of that award and was throwing to Devin Funchess. Okay, so he does deserve to have an opinion in this conversation. And for me, I didn't take a lot out of the Brock Purdy side of things. I took more out of the CMC side of things and the Dak Prescott side of things than anything. But I knew that it was going to go the Brock Purdy route. I just find it funny that he's not credible, but these other guys who back up our opinion that weren't near as good as Cam, we can call a spade a spade. They deserve to have an opinion, but Cam doesn't. I just find that funny.
Yeah, and I think the conversation is excuse me, is relevant right now because Brock Purdy is number 2 when it comes to MVP vote or MVP odds right now behind Dak Prescott. So the question is, should Brock Purdy be considered an MVP when he has so many guys around him that are talented? And it's the whole chicken or the egg argument. Is the talent around him having the type of year that they're having because of Brock Purdy, or is Brock Purdy having the type of year that he's having because of the talent? And it's just normal NFL debate. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters to the players on the 49ers. We know it doesn't matter to Brock Purdy. Ultimately, they're thinking of one thing and one thing only, and that's winning a Super Bowl. And do we believe that Brock Purdy can be the quarterback of this team and win a Super Bowl? To me, it's undeniably yes, because of what they've been able to do against Super Bowl caliber teams this season and how they've been able to go out there and dominate with Brock Purdy as quarterback. There's no reason he's not going to be they're not going to be like, oh, we would have won if we had a better quarterback. Let's just put it that way.